Okay, guys, the goal, remember, what we're trying to do is we are trying to write a paper about how slavery was the cause of the Civil War, and then additionally answer how it magnified three issues. Number one being states' rights, number two being the tariff, and number three being sectionalism. The thing you'll need to do is make sure you've gone through this whole PowerPoint to understand all the different information in here, what's going on, to be clear. That way you can create your topic sentence. We can move through this thing and get it written and taken care of. So I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit in this presentation to where you would be writing your topic sentence. So here we go. To write a topic sentence, the easiest thing you can do is turn the prompt into a statement. So for example, if I come in here and I'm just going to type right in the PowerPoint, so it says, how was slavery the cause of the Civil War? In order to start a prompt, I would simply put slavery was the cause of the. Now, that's the simplest way to do it, but there's still a second part to this question. We've got to include that. So you need an and or a comma or some sort of thing to get to this part of magnifying the other issues. It magnified the other issues or three issues of states' rights, tariffs, and then there's sectionalism. Okay, now when we go look at this, we're talking about these things. So this is an example of a way you can do it. Okay, makes it super simple, simplest, easiest way. Now, you can use my prompt or my statement if you want. You can come in there and write your own, or you can write your own. You can add more to it, but you can use mine if you want. It is up to you. It's going to make for a lot of papers that are the same, but okay, fair. Now, just to jump ahead a little bit, I want to talk a little bit more about the three extra parts of this, the things that you have to talk about with regard to the magnification. So sectionalism is this idea that people are more concerned with their region or their state than the good of the entire country. Now, sectionalism is so strong with regards to slavery because of the money the South is making and because of the increasing view of slavery as evil. The North is more and more concerned with the fact that there is this evil being done, this violation of the high ideals of our Constitution being done in America, and the South is super caught up with the money they are making. You're never going to get a reconciliation between those two sides, and each side sees the importance of their own side more than the whole. End it now versus never end it. Keep it going. We're making money. All right. So examples of sectionalism that you're going to see. Slavery is obviously the most biggest one. Okay. The Missouri Compromise. The reason I say the Missouri Compromise is an example of sectionalism is it creates the boundary between the two sides. It's the dividing line between the two sections. The economic relationship between North and South, they compete rather than work together. That's sectionalism. The Fugitive Slave Act is an act forcing free states to return slaves just like a slave state would. So that's an example where the South is trying to force the North to behave like slave states without any regard to their laws within their own area, it's a problem. And then tariffs, the North is only seeing what they can do with those tariffs. That is, blocking the economic ability of the South to compete with the North. They're not seeing economic damage to the South. They're not seeing it from the South perspective. They're only seeing how can we hurt the South and stop them from using slavery, or stop them from competing with the North economically is probably more likely. The big issue in the country is that all of these sides, well, both of these sides see themselves as more important than a country as a whole, and as a result, it's going to rip the country in half. All right, so let's jump ahead a little bit. We're going to talk about the Compromise of 1850. That is what gives us the Fugitive Slave Act. That's what lets California into the Union. Now remember, California, if we go look at this map, it's above and below the Missouri Compromise line. The Missouri Compromise line says all above free states, all below slave states. California comes in and they're like, hey, what about? And they're like, okay, Compromise of 1850. That gives us Fugitive Slave Act, now a crime to help escaping slaves. The slave trade is ended in Washington, D.C. California enters as a free state above and below the line, and the territorial government of Utah was created. Now, this boundary dispute between Texas and Mexico, it'll establish a territorial government in New Mexico. Now, we're not talking Mexico, we're talking New Mexico. So there's a boundary dispute between the territory of New Mexico and the state of Texas. And eventually they'll say, you know what, we're done, stop it, and we're going to say this is the territory of New Mexico, and here is its government. All right, now what does this do? Why does this move us further towards the Civil War? Right here. All of these are the states that are free. There are 16 of them. All of these are the states that are slave states. There are 15. That the balance in favor of free states. So guess what's going to happen in Congress? But it doesn't quite yet. So balance of power is shifting, but it's not done. This describes how Congress works and can help you understand what's going on there. And then tariffs. Let's talk about tariffs. Tariffs are just taxes. They're taxes to raise prices on imports. The point of raising the price on the import is to make you want to buy domestic or American made. The whole idea there is slow down the foreign trade of the South, and it's done to protect the profits of the North. So yes, the tariff is an example of sectionalism, the North acting sectionally. It is something that makes the South really angry. All right, so the South felt that the high tariffs would destroy their economy, that sort of thing. All right, tariffs. This is a little more detail on how the tariffs work and the different components of them. So the idea of what's going on economically, how that affects the South. The North does not import, so they don't pay the tariff. All right, states' rights. Now, the debate between the North and the South over states' rights is this idea is that a state government or the federal government supreme, which one is in charge? Who gets to tell who what to do? Or who has to do what the other one says? I guess that's the same thing, Mr. Gilbert. Bottom line here, that's the big debate, because the states' rights Southerners are going to say, no, 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 states have the right to refuse to pay the tariff. States have the right to say whether or not they're going to end slavery, not the federal government. So this is part of the issue. But those who say states' rights is its own independent thing, they're ignoring the reality that states' rights was all about whether the South would be able to keep or not keep slavery. It's very little to do with the tariff. It is way more to do with slavery. All right, so that's more on states' rights. You can read over that. It's an inconsistency with the the idea there that, well, the idea of joining the Constitution. The North is going to feel like once you're in, you're in. You can't get out. The South is going to feel like, no, we're here by choice. And it's just a disagreement. That's also part of states' rights. Now, the third part of states' rights is if the war is about states' rights, the South should be willing to die for states' rights. If that's the case, then they wouldn't want states' rights violated in other states, but yet they do. They do this through the Fugitive Slave Act. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in class, but you can see it there. All right, so that again brings us to the triggering event, which is the election of Lincoln. Once Lincoln is elected, you can see this is how the map goes for who goes for what candidate. But once the states, the northern states, pick Lincoln as the president, the southern states that are going to be first to secede or leave the Union are right here. They're out of there, and then the Civil War starts because the South starts seizing federal property. One of the things that they're going to attempt to seize is Fort Sumter, and they are going to fire upon Fort Sumter, which is in South Carolina. Federal troops refuse to surrender, and eventually this is the first battle of the Civil War. Here we go. All right, so hopefully that's enough for you to kind of get an idea of what you need to do to get started. So if you're working from home or if you just needed a little bit of a refresher, this will help get you there. If not, come to tutoring and I can help you there.